Oh, hello. Welcome to my kitchen. No. They're not starting like this. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy, hence Recipes with Roy. I figured I'd start out my videos, this first video, with an introduction so you get to know a little bit about me and why I've decided to do these YouTube videos. I am 58 years old. I grew up in Connecticut, but now I live in Massachusetts with my partner of 21 years. And I've always had weight issues ever since I was in my teens. At my highest, I was 307 pounds, and I was working as a teacher, but then had to retire due to a disability. I was diagnosed with neuropathy and myopathy, which basically means my muscles and nerves don't always work correctly. So I will get random cramps, I'll get stiffening of the muscles. Sometimes, like you'll notice maybe in my speech, my jaw muscles get a little tight. My hands are sometimes a little difficult to control because it'll affect my fine motor skills. So basically you can come for the recipes and stay to see if I happen to lose a finger that day. I started my weight loss journey because I figured with my problems with the neuropathy and myopathy that losing weight would be beneficial for my overall health, first of all, but also for my movement. It was very difficult for me to get up from chairs. It was very difficult for me to walk for long periods of time. I mean, it still is, but it's more manageable than it was then. I first noticed that I was having some difficulties when I was getting dressed in the morning, and I would put my pants on and I had difficulty lifting up my right leg for some reason. And so I thought, well, that's weird, but figured out it might just be a back problem or leg problem. I ended up then having what they call foot flop, I think they call it. Where I'd be walking and my foot would suddenly slap on the floor rather than landing like with more control like I would usually have. Then it escalated and I ended up falling a few times and not being able to get back up because my muscles couldn't support not just my weight, but they weren't strong enough. But the weight definitely did not help. So I decided I've got to lose weight whatever way I can, and finally decided that I would go to get weight loss surgery. Gastric bypass or the sleeve. I was hoping for the sleeve at the time. But during the process of prepping for the surgery, they want you to eat in the way that you're going to eat after the surgery so that you're prepared to eat in a certain manner. They wanted you to eat smaller bites, smaller portions, and chew more slowly. Well, just by doing those things, I ended up losing too much weight to get the surgery, which I don't mind actually, because in the long run, it ended up working out and I didn't have to go through the surgery. But I also didn't lose enough to be comfortable, to make movement easier. So I ended up joining Weight Watchers in March of 2020, and just before the quarantine hit, so I got to one meeting before I then had to do virtual meetings. And for some people, it might have thrown them off track, but for some reason, maybe because I had been used to being at home, it didn't throw me off. So I still managed to lose weight using Weight Watchers, and I reached my goal this year, January of 2021, dropping 85 pounds. So now I am at 186, 185. I've switched over to iTrack Bites for maintenance. It's basically the same as Weight Watchers, but it's $30 for a year rather than like $30 for the month. So it was much more beneficial that way. So I am on the iTrack Bites Better Balance plan, which is like the WW Blue plan, which I was on previously. So there was really no transition. It's still the same basic thing. The points and bites typically match. So I will be giving my recipes in bites. They will also translate into WW Blue plan points for the most part. I mean, there may be one or two things that adjust, and it also depends on the actual ingredients you use versus what I use. That can also affect it. So I always suggest putting anything into the recipe builder just so you know exactly what you are getting. After using all of those, losing all that weight, I managed to get off of my diabetes and blood pressure medications. And that alone was like a major victory. I'd already lost a lot of the weight at that point. I hadn't lost all of it, but I'd lost a lot. But that was just like, okay, you're in the right direction, keep going. So right here would probably be a good spot for me to show you a little video clip, a little montage of my weight loss journey, and I will be right back. So there you see the progress from some of those larger photos to more recent photos. And part of the reason that I'm doing these videos is because I know a lot of people have difficulty finding variety in the foods that they eat to help them be successful on a weight loss journey. Now, I've always loved to cook and bake. I'm self-taught from watching TV shows like Good Eats with Alton Brown, America's Test Kitchen, reading cookbooks, learning why things work and why things go together. I thought some of the recipes that I was finding, even on the WW app, were higher in points than I would like. So what I ended up doing was adjusting them, playing around with different recipes. There were also recipes that were not specifically for weight loss, but I was like, I've got to find a way to adapt that into my regimen so that I can enjoy those different foods. And I will admit that a lot of them that I experimented with at first were desserts because I love to snack. I needed things that were going to be tasty, but also low points, or now low bites. So here, what I'm planning on doing on this channel is to share some of my recipes, some of the other recipes from other people, and I will acknowledge them and share their links if I can remember where I got those recipes, so that you have a better chance of sticking to it because you're going to have more variety of lower point, lower bite foods. But I'm also willing to, if you have a recipe that you'd like to see lightened up, leave a comment below and maybe I'll work on making that a new recipe for the menu. I have to give credit to a few people for getting me started on this journey here on YouTube. First of all, my partner Paul, who bought all the equipment and has been very supportive throughout all of this. But also, more specifically for the YouTube channel, Bree and Greg Coleman from Keeping Up with the Colemans. Some of you may be followers of theirs and they may have sent you over here. You may have heard of me on their channel a few times. Also, my friend Jennifer Lynn, she has a channel here on YouTube where she shows a lot of her food prep and her grocery hauls and things. And then there's Dish with Dee. And Dee is also coming up with all sorts of recipes, and she has her own blog full of recipes. And like her, I created a blog that is a repository for all of these recipes. So I will link that down below also. So you can sign up and hopefully get notified when I add a new recipe or go check out the recipes that I have already uploaded. So that is the plan, is to share my recipes and the recipes of other people that I've used along my journey so that you can benefit from them as well and get some variety, some different takes on things, maybe even learn just ways to tweak other recipes that you already enjoy. But anyway, today's recipe is going to be, well, it's not even really a recipe. It's more of a procedure. I'm going to be making 0.0 bite cream cheese using Greek yogurt. I did not come up with this. I originally heard of this from the WW Gays, John, Luke, and Nick. And I will link them below as well in case you want to check them out. The reason I chose this one is because it's basically a simple step. It's long only because you have to let it sit in the fridge for a day or two. So this is going to be a recipe that you can use for a variety of things, not just putting on bagels. Some of the recipes that I have that I use it for, I use it in certain desserts. Like there's a blueberry cream cheese crumb bar. I think that's what it's called. I've forgotten my own name. And also some cream cheese stuffed French toast that I just made the other day. So this will be, you'll have this in your back pocket ready to go if some of those other recipes come up or anything else that you use cream cheese for. So let's get to that recipe and I will show you how it's done. All right, so what we are going to work on today is 0.0 bite cream cheese made from non-fat Greek yogurt, a 0.0 bite food. That way you don't have to deal with those rubbery, fat-free cream cheeses at the store. One thing, if you get the Fage, which I tend to prefer, for some reason they have the date printed on the part you peel off and throw away. So I always write the date on the lid before I throw it away. Otherwise I never can remember when it's going to expire. So I'm going to, this recipe can easily be halved if you don't need a lot. It can be doubled, it can be tripled. Today I'm going to double it because I am going to use it for another recipe coming up so that I will have it on hand. And that's going to take 2 cups of Greek yogurt. Always stir it up a little bit before you put it in. Now the original recipe calls for 1 cup and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. The salt definitely makes a big difference in this because it will add something that just regular yogurt doesn't, a little savoriness that the Greek yogurt alone does not have. If you need to watch your salt, you could easily cut it down. You could do without it, just don't expect as much of a cream cheesy flavor. Okay, so we have 2 cups of the cream cheese here. Just gonna add it to our bowl. Now I have made the mistake of just putting it into the fine mesh strainer and with the coffee filters. And it's a little difficult to stir the salt in that way, so I prefer to put it into its own separate bowl. So this is a 1/4 teaspoon. Since I'm doubling the recipe, I'm gonna use 2 of those and just stir this together. You want that salt to be pretty well put in there. And that's going to do two things besides just flavoring the yogurt a little bit to give it a more savory flavor. It's also going to help some of the moisture come out of it. So it is beneficial to add it. But again, if you have to watch your salt intake, then you can leave it out or cut it down. Now, you're going to need a fine mesh strainer. You're going to need some coffee filters, preferably this cup type, because the cones, I don't think they would hold enough or hold it correctly. So I have 5 of them here. I'm going to save 2 that I'm going to put on the top. You really only need the ones for the bottom that you're going to put inside the strainer, the sieve, like this. And it can be a little finicky trying to sit it in there sometimes. And then you're going to set that into another bowl, just like that. And what this is going to do is it's going to, over the next couple of days, it's going to sit in the fridge. All of the moisture is going to come out of the yogurt. Not all of it, but a good portion of it. So what you're going to do is wrap this up with plastic wrap, put it in the fridge for a couple of days, and let all of the moisture come out, and it's going to fill up this bowl. Now this bowl is deep enough that I don't need to dump it too frequently, but if your strainer is sitting on the bottom of the bowl, you're going to want to strain it more frequently so it's not sitting in that moisture and drawing some of it back up. So I'm going to take these other 2, and I'm going to put these on top and press it down. This isn't necessary, but I think it helps, especially if you have a lot of yogurt in there, because it lets some of the moisture seep out through the top as well as the bottom. Now let me dry off my hands and get some plastic wrap to cover that up. Maybe move some of these things out of my way. Now I usually will double the plastic on this just to make sure it's protected from soaking in any flavors that may be lingering in your fridge. It may not be necessary, but that's what I do. And then you just wrap it so it's got a pretty good seal on it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you just want it to be covered so nothing can get into it. Then we're going to store this in the fridge, and I will show you what happens after it's done. Okay, it's been 24 hours since I put the cream cheese in the fridge, so I will show you the draining process. I don't know if you can see how much liquid is in there, but I'll show you when we go over to the sink. Okay, so I'm going to unwrap this, and you can see, maybe you can't, it's getting a bit firmer, and you want to hold this up over the sink because it may still drip a little bit, but look at all the liquid that has come out of that yogurt. So you're going to cover it back up with the plastic wrap, put it in the fridge for another day or so. You could probably use it now. There might not be much liquid that comes out after this. But if you want it a little firmer, it's better to put it back in. And what you can do is you can set a can or something on top of here now that some of the liquid's gone, and it'll help to press some more liquid out if you want. So I'm going to put this back in the fridge and I will show you the end result tomorrow. Okay guys, so we are at the end of our cream cheese adventure. Let me grab it out of the fridge. Now a little bit of liquid has spilled off. So let me go dump that out. And I'll grab some paper towels because I'm just going to use the same bowl that I drained this in. I need to get the rest of the liquid out. Without further ado, here we have our cream cheese. Now it's obviously going to be a little damp on the coffee filters, but see how thick and creamy that is now? Just like cream cheese. Okay, so here you have your 0.0 bite cream cheese. You can use it for anything, like I said, that you use cream cheese for. And it is 15 calories for 2 tablespoons. That's about a serving. And the macros are fat 0 grams, carbs 0.8 grams, and protein is 3 grams if you're following macros. And you're going to want to store it in an airtight container in the fridge, obviously. But before I do that, I'm going to show you a quick little snack for 1 point or 1 bite. So I'm going to use some everything bagel seasoning on some of these Wassa Light Rye crackers. You can have 2 of these for 1 bite. I'm going to put a little cream cheese and a sprinkle of this. If you go over 3 grams, it's technically a bite. I wouldn't personally count it, but just to show you the reality of it, I don't even think I would get to 3 grams. I'm going to weigh it out. But I'm not going to put this bowl on the scale first. I'm going to put it on now because when you're doing a very low gram item, the scale sometimes doesn't register it. So right now it's reading the bowl at 72 grams. So I'll go up to 75. And that's going to be plenty for the crackers. Now a little smear of cream cheese. Seeing it spreads just like a cream cheese, like a soft cream cheese. So sometimes if I'm using this in a recipe and it calls for room temperature, I might let it set out, but a lot of times they just want it softened. And this is already softened. And then I'm going to sprinkle on the seasoning. And see, I'm not even using the whole 3 grams and it's already pretty well loaded. If you're not going to use it right away, you might want to put the date, the expiration date of the Greek yogurt on there. That's going to expire about the same time. So you can have this lovely little snack for just 1 bite. It's, if you were following calories, it'd be 66 calories for these 2 crackers. You won't be able to tell the difference. So I hope you liked this video, or at least found it informative. And if you did, maybe give me a little like down below, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for when I upload another video. And also comment below if there's a recipe that you would like to see me try to lighten up. Just no seafood. I don't do seafood. As far as I'm concerned, if it lives in the water, it should stay there. And so also show some love to my supporters, the people who started me on this journey. Bree and Greg Coleman, Keeping Up at the Colemans, Jennifer Lynn, and Dish with D. They'll all be linked down below. And there's also a link to my recipe blog. And there's a link to the WW Gays, now they call themselves the Wellness Warriors, to their channel as well. And that's where I got this cream cheese recipe from. So I hope you give it a try. If you do, let me know down below what you've made with it. And until next time, thanks for watching.